How's it going, everyone? It's Caleb Lumley here, and I am coming at you with my first ever Game Boy Color review. I'm excited to talk about a video game that is on the Game Boy. I've never done this before. It's going to be a little bit weird for me to talk about it because I'm not sure exactly how to talk about one of these games, so I'm going to try my best. So today we're going to talk about the first game that I beat on my Restaurant 5. That's how I was able to record this. And that game is Looney Tunes Carrot Crazy. It is a 2D platforming game where you play as Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny as you go and you try to collect back the carrots that were stolen from you by Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Taz, Marvin the Martian, and Elmer Fudd. They all teamed up together to go and steal the carrots, apparently. So the whole point of this game is that you're going through, you're completing different chapters. This is what I'm going to call them. There's like 3 levels in each chapter. You're basically going through, completing those chapters, and you have to beat the final boss at the end of each one to continue to the next. Now, this is a very difficult game, and I want to put this out there right away because I know that this feature is going to immediately turn people off from this video game. This 2D platformer has fall damage. Now, I haven't played a lot of 2D platformers that have fall damage before, so that was kind of different, and I know a lot of people don't like it when there is fall damage. Now, there is a reason for it. They do kind of give you a decent reason to have fall damage, and that's because Lola Bunny has a special ability where she can pull out an umbrella to fall easier, so she can kind of fall lightly instead of falling so hard. So there is a reason for that to exist. There is a reason for fall damage to be in this world, and at least there's a way around it, and I appreciate that. And whenever I was playing this game, I found myself playing as Lola Bunny a lot more just because of the fact that she had that umbrella. Because that umbrella is really a safety net, especially when you are on these, like, you know, you're up really high on some of these platforming areas. If you fall, well, that's it. Like, if you fall as Bugs, you hit the ground. There's no way to soften your landing. But Lola, you always have that umbrella to kind of, you know, fall gentlier. So I like that a lot. And while I don't like the feature necessarily, I like that they at least gave you a way to counteract it, and there was some thought put into why there's fall damage. You know, it's not just like fall damage for the sake of it. There's, you know, a feature that's kind of like, okay, you'll take fall damage if you don't use Lola Bunny and use this feature. Because the whole point of this game, too, is you're swapping between Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny throughout the entire game, because they each have their own individual features. Lola Bunny has that umbrella, but Bugs Bunny is able to push blocks. He can push some blocks around to get into some areas that you normally wouldn't be able to get to. He can also dig underground in certain areas and also like dig under some platforms that you can't get past. So there is a good reason to swap back and forth in this game, but I still found myself playing as Lola Bunny more because that umbrella is super useful when it comes to not taking fall damage. Because you probably will die a few times in this game from fall damage. Like, it's not very forgiving when it comes to falling. So keep that in mind. You may want to play as Lola for the majority of this game. So the actual gameplay itself, I actually think it plays very well. It's very smooth and it looks pretty good. Bugs Bunny looks really good. All the characters look really good. The environments and everything. It's all, you know, pixelated goodness. I think it all looks pretty good. But Lola Bunny, for some reason, they didn't put a lot of color into, and I don't really know why. For some reason, they just kind of left her plain. It's like she's gray just like Bugs is, and that doesn't really make sense. But that's what they went for, so I guess, you know, whatever, I guess. I would prefer they actually put some color onto Lola like they did for Bugs Bunny, but is what it is. It doesn't affect gameplay, it's just something that I kind of thought was an odd decision to do. The level design is pretty good. I like a lot of the levels that are here. I think that for the most part, the levels before the boss levels are pretty much all good. But once you get to the boss levels, that's when the frustration kind of starts popping up a little bit, because the boss levels, basically each boss level in this game, it's always the 3rd level in each chapter. They're all basically kind of like runaway levels where you're running away from a vehicle, you're running away from one of the bad guys controlling a vehicle, or, you know, controlling a herd of animals in Taz's case. Taz has like a herd of animals chasing you, and you have to basically just keep running from them until you get to the end of the level. And that's kind of like what the boss fights start off as. You have to run through this entire, you know, this course, basically. You have to run through this entire level, and then at the very end, the actual boss fight happens where you have to face whoever was controlling, you know, whatever vehicle or whatever herd or whatever you want to say. You have to face the boss of that level at the very end of it. So you have to go through this entire level being chased, And then even after that, and there's a lot of cheap hits, you'll get hit by things that you don't really see that are coming like just onto the screen, so you don't really have much time to react. You're going to get hit by those things a lot. So by the time you get to the end of the level, if you get to the end of the level, during the boss fight, you're not going to have much health left because of the fact that you've taken so much damage just to get to the end of the level. So you have to fight the boss with hardly any health left. Now, luckily, a lot of the bosses aren't super difficult. It's usually just a matter of ducking and hitting, but it can be frustrating. Those levels can be very frustrating, and what's worse is that this game uses a password system, and the only way you get that password is if you complete the chapter completely. So if you finish, the first 2 levels of chapter 1, you get to level 3, which is the boss fight, and you die on that level, that's it. There's no continues. You have to reset back from level 1. And the only way to stop that from happening is to get the password by completing the final level. But that also means for Chapter 2, for example, if you beat the first 2 levels of Chapter 2 and then you get to the 3rd level of Chapter 2, well, if you die on the 3rd level of Chapter 2, you run out of lives. Oh, you gotta start Chapter 2 all over again because you didn't get the password for the end of Chapter 2. That sucks. I wish that they would have gave you a password at the end of each level. I think that would have been a lot more fair. It wasn't a huge deal for me because I use save states, but like for someone just wanting to play through that would be infuriating. Like I guarantee you, I probably would have never beaten this game if it wasn't for the use of save states. This game is really, really rough when it comes to the boss fights, and it's not completely fair when it comes to the boss fights either. But it is what it is, What can you do? I do like that during the levels while you're going around and you're collecting the carrots and trying to get to the end of the level, you're trying to collect a few different things. Like you're trying to collect pieces of one of those, movie producer clips, one of the things that they use to whenever they go cut and they close it. You're trying to collect 4 pieces of that to put it together, and that's how you exit the level. But you're also trying to get some letters. There's letters that say extra. They spell out the word extra. So if you find all the letters to the word extra, then it will give you a mini game after you complete the level, and it's basically you playing as Bugs Bunny throwing dynamite at standees of different characters. And if you hit all the standees, then you get an extra life. I thought that was kind of a cool little mini game, and I did like it quite a bit. So overall, what do I think about this game? I think it's a pretty good looking game. I like the way it looks. I like the fact that it's Looney Tunes. I like the level design other than the boss fights. This game does have a lot of cheap deaths when it comes to the boss fights, and the fall damage is definitely not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's hard to recommend a game like this. However, it's also not very expensive. So if you want to give it a shot, I picked this game up for $5. If you can pick it up for around $5 to $10, that's probably not bad. It's probably worth giving it a shot at that point. But I definitely wouldn't go crazy with this game because it definitely has flaws. It's not a perfect game by any means. But if you can look past its flaws, you have a pretty good-looking game here that has a phenomenal soundtrack, really good design, really good level designs in terms of just the regular levels, not the boss fights. But the regular levels are very well designed, and the stages and everything are great. Yeah, a lot of Looney Tunes stuff going on here, and it's definitely has some charm to it. So if you can find it for cheap, maybe it's worth it, but it's not something that you probably should rush out and pick up. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe button down below, and I will see you in the next video. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.